Leigh Wambsganss, Republican candidate for State Senate District 9. Thank you so much and welcome back to Eye on Politics.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. So you're in a runoff,
Yes.
And early voting starts very soon. And so I'm wondering, you're up against Democrat Taylor Ramette, and are Republicans in this district energized about your campaign, and what are you doing to get out the vote?
So we have an army of volunteers. Republicans are very energized, and I believe that they are finally realizing the threat to Tarrant County. You know, the Keep Turn Tarrant Blue and all of those groups have been very active, but they're most active right now. They are really determined to take this seat, and that's why we are working very, very hard.
I asked you about that because when you go back and you look at the special election in November, while you and Republican John Huffman had more total votes and more early votes than Ramette, Ramette had more votes than the two Republicans, you and Huffman, on election day.
Right.
How big of a concern was that, and what does it say about what you're doing now?
Well, we cannot ever take any race for granted, but the good thing about that race is it was really a primary race. We ran that as a primary because in this jungle election it was 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat. And so the Republicans were really running against each other. I beat my opponent more than 2-1, and now we're moving on to what is ostensibly a general election. The biggest challenge is the election date. Texans are not used to voting in January, right? January 31st is the election date. Early voting runs from Wednesday the 21st through Tuesday the 27th. Can you remember ever voting in January in Texas? No one is used to it. So that's the big challenge, is educating our voters about the election date.
And election day, the 31st, is a Saturday.
It is a Saturday.
Which also brings challenges,
Yes.
I would imagine. So what are you doing, though, specifically to get out the vote?
So specifically, I have a grassroots army. We are out there beating the doors, talking to voters. I'm going to events every day, talking to groups of voters. You know, it's really the pace hasn't slowed down or picked up. We have worked hard from day one, and we do have an army that realized the threat to Tarrant County. We're working really hard. We've already walked over 10,000 doors, all volunteer, and we're not stopping until Election Day.
And what is the threat that you speak of?
So the threat is turning Tarrant blue. You know, we believe as conservatives that conservative policies and conservative legislation is the best thing for all Texans.
And what are those policies? I mean, what are your voters telling you? What are their top concerns?
So this district has 23 cities, whole or partial, and 13 school districts. And it doesn't matter what city I'm in. The top concern is property taxes. From there, it goes to public safety and school funding. Those are really the top one. It doesn't matter what city I'm in, is property taxes. And that's something I want to tackle and get some real property tax relief. You know, the last time we spoke was before the November election.
Right.
Voters overwhelmingly approved increasing the homestead exemption up to $140,000 for everyone, and it goes up to $200,000 for seniors or those with disabilities. I think we can do better. I've done the math. There is a surplus down there in Austin that shouldn't be a surplus. That should be returned to the voters in the form of property tax relief. So I'm looking forward to getting down there and digging in. I think we need to rein in the spending and bring property taxes down because our property taxes in Texas are a problem.
So let's talk about a number of things that you said. With regards to property taxes, both Governor Abbott and the Lieutenant Governor have put forward policies that their goal is to eliminate school property taxes on homesteads, but they have very different ways of achieving that.
Right.
And so I'm wondering, where are you on that? Whose plan do you like?
Well, I'm excited about both of them because I'm excited that the Lieutenant Governor and the Governor are focusing on this issue because I'm focusing on this issue. And I think at the end of the day, we throw all the options on the table and we end up with the one that's best for Texans because people are literally being taxed out of their homes and it's not acceptable.
And I was talking with an expert in this, and you know, one of the ideas that the Lieutenant Governor has is to lower the threshold for people to have their property taxes on their homesteads frozen on school property taxes. Right now it's 65. He wants to lower that threshold to 55. And I was talking with one expert who said, you know, with regards to the affordability issues that are out there, that why isn't there a proposal to give some kind of break to first-time home buyers who are trying to get over that hump? And so I'm wondering what you think of that.
I think all of those are really good points, and that's why we need to put it all on the table and see what is best. I think there's really great areas in both proposals. There's a lot of other proposals that don't get the media, you know. So I'm excited to dig in there and find solutions and find the best solution that helps all ages of home buyers and homeowners.
You said something before about spending. You think spending is too high?
I do.
Okay, in what areas? Because I know that when it comes to spending, the Lieutenant Governor has said state is very conservative. You know, it's only population growth and inflation. Obviously, inflation was very high years ago. It's come back down. But where are you differing in that aspect as far as spending? Where is it too high?
If you do analysis of the entire budget, we have over about $368 billion budget. There are items in every category where you can find. But when you realize our state has more than $20 billion sitting in a surplus, you realize we can do better. That money needs to go, that's our money, that's taxpayers' money, that's families' money trying to buy groceries, trying to, you know, pay their light bill. So there's no reason for the state to have a surplus. We need to send that back to the voters. That's part of the fiscal responsibility I want to take to Austin.
And a lot of that, I guess, is amassed in the rainy day fund because of oil and gas.
That is separate from the rainy day fund and in addition to that surplus.
Well, there's the surplus,
Yes,
right,
yes.
as far as the budget, and then there's the rainy day fund.
Right.
So we're talking about a lot of money here. So you're saying 100% should go back to property tax payers?
It sure could, or at least go to either directly back or use that surplus to help fund the schools so that M&O tax can be lowered as well.
And so you're talking about increasing the state contribution to offset so that property taxpayers aren't having to pay that M&O.
Yes, and that's called compression. And so
Right.
you've got the homestead exemption. Listen, when I started fighting for lower taxes in Texas, our homestead exemption was $15,000. And I was told, oh, you can't raise that, you can't raise that. Oh, the sky will fall. Well, we have incrementally raised that because people who support low taxes have demanded that of our state legislators, right? And up to the point of what just happened in November, to $140,000. So that's a good thing. But compression is where they use the money that they have down there from us to pay down the M&O across the state. The maintenance and operations part of your school district taxes are the highest part of your taxes.
Right.
And so that's just a really fiscally responsible way to manage and make sure public schools are fully funded.
And what is your definition of fully funding school districts?
Fully funding is making sure teachers are getting reasonable pay, making sure the schools have the things that they need, and that education is happening. What we need to make sure of is that it's education, not indoctrination, that teachers feel appreciated, that we can keep good teachers and educate our kids.
And so are you for increasing teacher salaries more than where I know they just got a boost, but are you saying you would like to increase teacher salaries further?
Absolutely.
Do you have an idea, a goal?
Well, there's across the board because we have so many school districts in Texas, 13 different school districts in Texas. I want to do an analysis of where we are in Senate District 9 in comparison to the rest of Texas, and then in comparison to the rest of the country. I think that analysis is really important. I know, depending on the school district, retention is great in some school districts and not so great in other school districts. So I'd like to get to the root of the problem. I like to go to root causes instead of just trying to do a soundbite on the top. So I'm excited to look into that. I have a lot of supporters who are teachers, I have family members who are teachers. And those people, those professionals are shaping the hearts and minds of the next generation, and those kids deserve a good education.
And what do you make of the fact that a number of school districts in North Texas are having to shut down some of their schools, elementary schools, neighborhood schools, et cetera? What do you make of that? What's going on here?
Well, the ones that I've looked at in Senate District 9, it is due to lower student population. And that's a fiscal responsible way to manage their budgets. And I applaud them for managing their budgets that way. If a school has an enormous amount of property that they don't need, they need to sell it off so that they can better serve the kids in their district. There's 5 school districts in the state that were being looked at being taken over by the state. 2 of those are in Senate District 9. So we have some work to do. We need to do better.
And do you support the states taking over of those districts?
I support making sure every single kid gets a good education regardless of their zip code. It's not right for those kids to be in a school that's underperforming at such a low level that the state feels like it needs to investigate.
And what is your message to the state as far as the Texas Education Agency Commissioner about, you know, going in there, putting in his own school board and perhaps a new superintendent? What's your message to him?
My message to him is focus on the kids, make sure the teachers have what they need the support, they need the salaries, and make sure the kids are getting a good education, because otherwise it's a daycare and a very, non-performing one. Those kids are our future. They're our future workforce. They're our future citizens we're going to be doing life with. We need to make sure that they get the education that they deserve.
You spoke about public safety as being another top concern. In what way?
So during the Biden administration, we have over 11 million documented illegals that flooded our border. But people think in Tarrant County that we're really safe. I've supported Operation Lone Star to help close our border. We have multiple cases of violent criminal illegal aliens, and it caused our crime in Tarrant County to rise. A couple of years ago, our own sheriff, Tarrant County Sheriff Bill Wayborn, testified in Washington about his troops going to a stash house to make an arrest, and they found women in cages in Tarrant County. Tarrant County needs to realize that these things are real. Law enforcement knows it. That's why I have the endorsement of almost all the law enforcement agencies. Law enforcement needs our support. Part of that support is keeping Operation Lone Star going. In Texas, we're such a prosperous state. We should never again be caught with an open border, regardless of who's in the White House. I think Operation Lone Star needs to stay functional, and we need to make it a robust program, and I certainly support that program.
And so I know that the amount of money in that program was reduced by the legislature this time because of the current situation.
Right.
By the White House and at the border. But a lot of Republicans have said that President Trump's not going to be in office forever, and the state needs to be wary of that. And I know that's similar to what you just said.
Exactly.
So how much more money do you think needs to be spent?
I don't think I have a number right now. I think that requires an analysis of the situation on the border ongoing. What is important is that at a moment's notice, we are ready to upscale or downscale as needed. And I really appreciate Border is Our Home and President Trump helping Texas in that way. We're a border state. That border is not going to change regardless of who's in the White House. We always have to be cognizant to keep Texans safe.
I want to also ask you about health care. I know there was a poll that came out recently, last couple of weeks, by the UT Texas Politics Project, and they said health care is really among the top concerns of Texans right now. And so I'm wondering, I know Democrats have repeatedly called for expanding Medicaid, and the Republicans have said no. Where are you on that issue?
So I agree, and there's a healthcare issue that no one's talking about, and that's the shortage of physicians in the state of Texas. We need to look at that. We need to, there aren't enough programs right now to turn out the number of physicians to replace the numbers that are retiring. We need to focus on that. Had a couple of meetings about that already. Healthcare needs to be accessible for Texans, and Texas has pretty good healthcare, but from affordability, I don't believe the federal government is the answer. They are never the answer to our problems. With the original Obamacare, you saw, what a disaster that was. Healthcare should be affordable, and I think competition does that. But also we need to be cognizant that that's a serious issue, and it's multifaceted with shortage of doctors. What are the resources? Where are the resources? And how can the state help that? And those are things I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and try to find some solutions.
Did you have any ideas as it relates to attracting more doctors, turning out more doctors?
So the great thing about the number of meetings I've had is some great ideas have been presented to me. And one of them is we need more programs to get more doctors certified and to maybe reduce some of the regulations so that the exact same education can happen in a different, less than a traditional setting. So there's some very interesting ideas being spread around, and we need to look at all of them.
You spoke about endorsements. I know you have the endorsement of President Trump, the governor, lieutenant governor, the senator, Cruz, and NRA I was reading, and then some of the Tarrant County Law Enforcement Association.
Yes.
What do those endorsements say about your campaign and to voters in general?
Sure. They mean a lot to me personally. I have a 34-year record of fighting for conservative policy, supporting law enforcement, Second Amendment rights, pro-life. Those endorsements are indicative of the record of my body of work, and it's an honor.
Leigh Wambsganss, Republican candidate for special election, Senate District 9. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it.